Welcome back to Good Morning Transfers. Let's talk Aston Villa now. Not many, I think, would have predicted what has happened over the last few days as we count down to deadline day. Arsenal making a bid for Ollie Watkins and Jhon Durán now set to sign for Al-Nassr in Saudi Arabia. What are your thoughts, Dan, on this Jhon Durán move to Saudi?
I've got all kinds of emotions, to be honest, Dave. I think there's a lot to take into account with this transfer, a lot of things to mull over. And on the face of it, I think my overriding thought is that I think it's kind of a shame for Jhon Durán's football career that he's making the move from Villa in the Champions League to the Saudi Pro League at this stage of his career, because I feel he's got a lot to give at the highest level, and obviously he's giving that up to go to Saudi Arabia and try and progress their league. He's a young boy. I understand that it's an awful lot of money. I think it's very difficult to turn down the kind of eye-watering sums that are being offered to you when you're in that situation. So I'm not going to sit here and hammer him for choosing to go. I think for Villa, it's an awful lot of money as well for a player that, if we're being honest, as good as he is, as much as potential he's got, he isn't first choice and the body of work isn't massive. He's been sensational in what he's done this season in moments, but he is a firework just waiting to go off, both on the pitch and off the pitch. So again, I can see why Villa have gone with this and maybe thought that this gives them the scope to reshape the squad with a few days remaining in the window. Like I say, I just think I'd prefer him to stay. If I'm to be brutally honest, I could see why he wants to go and why the club would let him go as well. But I don't know. I feel all sorts about it.
A lot of emotions there.
The more I talk about it, I think the more upset I get about it, because I felt like Villa's front line is in a good position. Not many teams have two centre forwards that are capable of doing what the Villa centre forwards can do, and we're obviously going to lose that now as a club. But there's going to be a lot of heartbroken Villa fans, because Jhon Durán shirts are probably the most shirts that you see around Villa Park on a match day. So there's going to be a lot of upset young fans in particular, but Jhon Durán's going to have a lot of people in his ear. I think that's the main thing. He's got a big entourage around him of people that will be saying to him, not necessarily for footballing reasons, but probably for financial reasons, you should make this move. And when you factor in Ronaldo in Saudi Arabia as well, coming to the end of his career, he's not going to go on forever, although he's probably still got a few years left. Maybe that's a factor as well, the chance to play with one of the best footballers that there's ever been on the planet for a few years as well. It's just so unique because of his age. He's 21. We haven't seen someone at this stage of their career with this age profile, with this potential, go to the Saudi Pro League. But fair play to them. It's a huge coup for them.
But also go on, relax.
I was just going to say, I feel like for Villa fans, I get the emotion attached to it. And like you say, the kind of cult hero status of that quick rise, from the underdog who can't really get in the team. There might be a few issues where Unai Emery's had to work with him to come through some issues and get some stability there. And then you start seeing, the match winner against Bayern Munich, a massive night under the lights at Villa Park. It sparks the emotion, but because I don't have that emotion, I can kind of look from the business point of view. And from the business point of view, if you look at Aston Villa in the summer, when they had to sort of engage in discussions for Douglas Luiz, for PSR and to break even on the right terms, and you hear how Unai Emery is speaking, from what I've been seeing of him saying, they've offered good money, and it's what Jhon Durán wants, it's what is up to the player. He has different aspirations for his career, but the money that we've got for him. And I just look at, like you said, that a player he's unproven. Like, yes, he scored 12 goals this season, hasn't even made 10 starts for Villa. To go for that sum of money without, like you said, a big body of work to find out what is he really like as the main man, very difficult to turn down that sort of money. Would you want to do it as late in the window as this, and like you said, leave your strike force short? Probably not. Marlon's come in, could fill in here and there. Ollie Watkins, we'll get to that, but this, without that sort of pressure there, because I remember we've spoken before, and sometimes you felt like the pressure of Jhon Durán breathing down his neck and not knowing if he's going to be the out-and-out number one at all times, maybe hampered Ollie Watkins a little bit. Maybe he can, after the Arsenal stuff, settle down a little bit. So I just think from a Villa business perspective, I just think they're in a fantastic position with that money in the bank for a player who hadn't cut it on a consistent level. I just think you're in a better position.
You're right to bring up Watkins. I think it's a good thing for Ollie Watkins, because last season, when he was the undisputed number 9, he was going to play every week. Ollie Watkins was one of the best strikers in Europe in terms of goals and assists, and the eye test as well, watching him. This season, it hasn't been as clear-cut, and that has affected Watkins' game. He definitely hasn't been as good as he was last season. You could even see in the Celtic game on Wednesday night, the fact that he knew he was the number 1 striker again. He put in one of his best performances of the season. Yes, he missed chances, but he puts himself in those positions that other strikers don't. He's a really, really intelligent footballer. I think the overriding thing is that if you watch Unai Emery when Ollie Watkins is on the pitch compared to when Jhon Durán is on the pitch, Unai Emery's tearing his hair out because Jhon Durán doesn't do the things that Ollie Watkins does. So it's a blow, but I do also think long-term, Jhon Durán is going to go anyway at some point. If it wasn't now in January for this huge money, I'm sure he'd be kicking for a move in the summer like he was this summer just gone. So it's one of those things. Villa will move on as a club and hopefully there'll be some incomings with it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, from a Villa perspective, I think you can't deny the business that they're doing here. Again, staggering, selling him for almost 4 times the amount that they bought him for is extraordinary, particularly given that they got him to sign a mega contract in October. Protected themselves big time. October was only, feels like yesterday, doesn't it really? That is extraordinary for them, particularly given that he hasn't had the chance to really prove himself, but has still managed to get a number of clubs beyond on the market for a number of clubs. It's absolutely extraordinary business. But from Jhon Durán's perspective, I think, as you say, it's a shame from his footballing career and maybe will hamper his development as a footballer. Yeah. That said, we don't know his individual circumstances. What we do know is he's come from a deprived area in Colombia. This will do a huge amount for him, for his family, and, all the best to him. At the end of the day, he's going to be playing alongside Cristiano Ronaldo, one of his childhood heroes. You can understand the move as well, although, from a footballing perspective, it does seem a shame.
It does mean that Villa are in the market now for replacements for Jhon Durán. The Aston Villa president of football operations, Monchi, has been talking to the Spanish television channel COPE last night. This is what he had to say about potential replacements in terms of interest in João Felix and Marco Asensio at PSG. He says they are similar players who Unai Emery likes. Asensio was tried by Aston Villa before I arrived, that's Monchi. Last summer we were close to João. Neither of them are easy because in terms of salary and cost, they are not simple. He says if there is a coach in world football who recovers players, it is Unai Emery. So that's what we're hearing today about replacements, that Villa are looking at Marco Asensio and João Felix. So those are the 2 types of players that Villa should be looking at.
Yeah, I think Villa are short at the moment now just because of injuries and circumstances. If Durán goes, they've obviously lost Emery Buendia in the week as well. There's definitely places available and up for grabs in the attacking positions and in the defensive positions as well. I mean, me and you might be on the bench tomorrow, Dave. We're so short at the moment. Felix is the one that I would like now. We know that Unai Emery absolutely adores him as a player. He's a player who he really believes he can get the best out of.
Villa have tried to get him 3 windows in a row. Yeah,
he's lost his way a bit in his career, hasn't he? You could argue he's made the wrong move twice now. Again, that comes down to having the right people around you, getting you to make the right footballing decisions, not just the right financial decisions. There's a space there now in that number 10 position for João Felix to come in and play there. And as Flex says, instead of Villa having a centre-forward breathing down Watkins' neck, they've got multifunctional players in Marlon and João Felix or Asensio that can play there if needs be, but are also going to supplement and play with Watkins. I think that puts Villa in a better place because I think you're then getting the best out of Watkins in that scenario rather than the scenario that he's been in the first half of the season. And then in defence, they've let Diego Carlos go. They haven't replaced him yet. They were probably short of another senior defender anyway, so Disasi has been linked throughout the last week or so. Villa have a really, really strong and good relationship with Chelsea, and that could be crucial in these next few days because I do think it's Stamford Bridge that Villa will be going to for reinforcements.
Just comparing kind of season jobs by Unai Emery, I don't think Villa would have planned for this kind of level of upheaval in this January transfer window. So to increase the level of the players that were already there last season to qualify for the Champions League, if Villa were to qualify again for the Champions League this season, given the churn of players that we're going to see in this January window, how good a job is that compared to what he did last season? Because new players coming in, not guaranteed to be immediate impact. They've got to get used to the way he's playing. And if he's able to engineer another Champions League qualification, how does that compare to last season?
He's one of the best coaches out there, isn't he? You saw in the Celtic game on Wednesday, I think 9 of the starting 11 were already at the club when Unai Emery arrived. So he's a shaper and a moulder of players and a football team, and he's made nearly every player at Villa better. I actually think Villa will be better in the second half of the season. Maybe this, what seems like a disruption now, might actually stand them in good stead going into that second half of the season. They're still fighting on 3 fronts. I think it's overlooked the fact that Villa have got into the top 8 of the Champions League in their first season in the Premier competition for a long time. Unai Emery is an expert in Europe, but that achievement kind of almost got lost in the Watkins and the Durán transfer speculation. So if you manage it looks like top 5 might be enough this time round with the coefficient. The English coefficient is looking very, very strong at the moment. There's nothing to stop Villa finishing 5th. They've proven last season that they can finish in the top 4. The ambition has to be to try again to get in that top 5 and keep trying to build the football club, because playing Champions League football has done wonders for revenue. We heard yesterday how much money they've made on this Champions League journey so far. They're in a good place. It's just been a bit more of a bitty season than last season so far, but I think that can change in the second half of the season.